on a cold San Francisco and dark day, cold and dark day. We're glad to see you here, and I think it shows that this group understands the importance of this case. Our first speaker is Gerald Sanders. He's from the Labor Action Committee to Free Mumia Abu-Jamal, which is the group that initiated this rally. We're expecting the rally to last about an hour for you freezing people. And most of the talks will be very short, but Gerald will explain what we're doing here and speak a little longer than the 2 minutes. So Gerald Sanders.
Say, y'all, you know what? Right out the gate, we wrong. Stop the execution. We done stopped the execution. The question is, we don't want the brother to die in jail. That's the point. An innocent man, 41 years, and we don't want him to die in jail.
That's right.
That's the point. That's why we're out here. And let me tell you something. I read something where they said, well, you know what? This would be the last demonstration for Mumia. Bullshit. We will keep struggling until that brother leaves those prison walls. We don't know what's going to happen. We know this. Here's what we know, okay? Mumia had used up all of his basic, appeals. So if you support political prisoners, then you know political prisoners appeal for their release. Well, Mumia had used up all his appeals. But then guess what? They wound up, they so scandalous, they force you to take opportunities. Here we got a situation where the Williams case came up. Williams was a brother that felt that he was framed by the state, by the state of Pennsylvania. So he showed up to appeal, and the DA, Ron Castile, who had framed him up, was also now the judge. He said, nah, can't have this. Can't have this. He refused. And because he refused, because of that courage, he changed the law. Because he filed a brief and said, you know what, the DA can't be the judge. Come on, you can't look over your own work. Eventually, he won that case. He won that case, and then Mumia said, well, hell, it happened to me too. In fact, the same person, Ron Castile, was the DA, and then later on, he eventually became the Chief Justice for the State Supreme Court in Pennsylvania. Oh boy, I tell you, that's what it is. That's what we're facing, okay? But understand this, your presence matters. What you do matters. We know what they gonna do. I can write a book. I can tell you every move they gonna make. But what we do matters. They thought they were gonna kill my brother. But we got to organizing, demonstrating and carrying on, striking. That's right, there was a strike. The longshoremen went on the whole West Coast, down tools, went on strike, demanding freedom for Mumia. That's right. And that is the way that we gonna free him, because we not gonna just appeal to people that have no conscience. No, we're not gonna fool ourselves. So let me just tell you a little bit about what's going on. So we told you about the Williams case. Well, guess what? When Larry Krasner won the election for the DA in Philadelphia, he went to clear out the warehouse where they keep all of the archive, all of the cases and stuff. They found 6 boxes of material on Mumia Abu-Jamal that the defense has never seen. Well, wait, let me tell you something. Now, I said, and I was right, by the way, that when they find 6 boxes, they're supposed to let blood go. That's it. They found boxes that the defense did not find. They're supposed to let blood go. But you know they not right. You know they not right. We got to make them right. That's right. We got to make them right. So, unfortunately, my brother's still in jail, okay? Innocent man. But what did they find in the boxes? I can't take all of the time, but I want to give you 2 things that was in the boxes. Number 1, a letter from Chobert, who was a key witness at that time, back in 1981, 82. And he said, and this is his own handwriting, a letter to the DA saying, look, y'all owe me some money, so I want to get my money. Exactly. For what is the question? That deserves to be investigated. We need to find out what money the DA owes this man Chobert. Under what condition could he be paying a witness? Could it be bribery? Could it be for his testimony? We don't know. That's one of the things that was in the box. The other thing, they found McGill, I think his name was, the DA. There's a law that says you're not supposed to kick all the black people off the jury. Okay, there's a federal law. It's actually become law, and the Supreme Court has examined it, et cetera, et cetera. So what did they do? This dude McGill has got the name of all of the prospective jurors, and he writing down black, 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 and it winds up out of 14 prospective jurors, they struck 11 of them. That means they actually removed 11 black people from the jury before the jury was formed. Stop and think about that. Think about that. Okay? So that's just 2 of the things that were in these boxes that we are paying attention to now, and we out here saying we want to give me more. Give me more. Let me know what really is in these boxes. Now, unfortunately, the judge that was chosen to make a decision on this decided she wanted to dismiss all of this information. That's what she said. Well, you know what? We got a different idea. We want to look deeper into this information. In fact, we understand that whatever this judge says, if she doesn't change her mind by Friday, we're not going to give up. We're going to appeal. We're going to appeal. We're going to continue to strike. We're going to continue to fight. We're going to continue to defend our brother, innocent for 41 years. Okay? Thank you very much. Free Mumia.
Thank you, Gerald. Our next speaker is Cristina Gutierrez. She represents Mothers on the March, and she's also a founder of the large organizations for Mumia that developed in San Francisco 25 years ago. Cristina Gutierrez.
Okay, can I move it down? Well, brothers and sisters, you know, to me, this is very emotional. That after all these years, we are still fighting for the freedom, not only of Mumia, but for all those political prisoners that has risked their life, not only for their freedom, but for your freedom and my freedom. We need to really understand that. I've been very emotional because, I just became a grandmother for the 7th time. A little girl named Frida was born on the 12th of this month. And I said she must be a warrior of the light. That's what I hope she become, a warrior of the light. But what broke my heart and does not allow me to celebrate is the fact that that same day, a 15-year-old little girl was murdered in Palestine. All her dreams were destroyed. And he's not the only child that has been murdered in Palestine. Hundreds of children have been murdered in Palestine by the Zionists that are occupying that land, that country. But we pay for it. Yeah. You tax money and my tax money pay for it. We pay $40 billion for them to continue to occupy a nation that should be free and continue to commit genocide against the people of Palestine. We also have money in a military budget, brothers and sisters, that spend trillions of dollars to go and invade other countries all over the world. Right now, we know about Syria, we know about Iraq, we know about all these horrible things that our tax money has been doing. And right now, I hope that you have been watching the news, the little bit that you may hope, something is going on in Peru. And we know what happened in Venezuela. And what does this have to do with Mumia? A lot. Everything. Because racism in this country has allowed for this country to go in other countries and kill people because of the color of our skin. Racism in this country is the tool that they use to destroy the hopes and dreams of the people of the world and the people in this land. And unless, brothers and sisters, we unite the struggle of Mumia with the struggle of people of Haiti, with the struggle of the people in Peru and anywhere in the world, brothers, we will never be able to finish the exploitation and the oppression of the black people in this country. We need to get it together, brothers and sisters. That's the only thing that I'm saying in relation to that. I'm saying, and I need to say that because Mumia, his freedom, brothers and sisters, is essential. It's essential for us to be able to continue to fight for justice, for equality, for all of us. The freedom of this man, because this man is not saying I'm not political. This man is saying, I'm fighting for the justice. I'm fighting against imperialism. I'm fighting for unions. I'm fighting in order for my people to be free. That's what this man has been doing. He has never denied that. So please, brothers and sisters, we need to understand that because his freedom is not going to come from those goddamn people over there, from the judges. No, unless we force them to do so. It is up to the people to do so. We had to do it, whether it's 2 or 3 of us. We had to take radical steps in order to free not only Mumia, but all the political prisoners that we have there, from the Black Panthers Party, Leonard Peltier, and all those political prisoners that we have. That's the only reason why I come here, brothers and sisters. We need to understand. It's you and I who can free him, nobody else. Free Mumia! Free Mumia! Free Mumia! Free Mumia!
One of the really impressive things that Mumia does is he stands in solidarity with death row prisoners all around the world. And one of those prisoners also stands in solidarity with him, and that is Kevin Cooper. And we have a short message from Kevin Cooper in solidarity with Mumia, and Gabriela Wells will play it. She recorded it. She's an activist for Kevin Cooper.
Before this land became a country, Africans came here in chains against their will as they enslaved people. In the year 1619, these people who were also innocent people. Ever since then, we, the descendants of those people, have had to fight for our human rights and our humanity while living under the constant threat of death and imprisonment, while at the same time dreaming about and searching for this elusive thing called freedom. No one knows this better than our cultural brother and comrade struggle, Mumia Abu-jamal. It's with this historical understanding that we fight for, stand with, and support Mumia. We did until yesterday, we do today, and we will continue to do so as long as it takes to free him. And struggle and solidarity from death row and San Quentin prison. This is Kevin Cooper.
Thank you, Gavrila. We're going to keep on fighting for Kevin Cooper. Next up, we have a nephew of Huey Newton, the founder of the Black Panther Party, and a member of Local 10 of the ILWU. Give it up for David Newton.
All power to the people. First of all, we want to say free Mumia, and we'll end it with that. But I think we need to touch on a couple of things. The 13th Amendment in the Constitution talks about freedom of human race. In that amendment, you talk about freedom for everyone except for someone incarcerated. So this references back to slavery. So we watch movies like 12 Years of Slave. This man is 41 years of slave, almost to the date, in today's modern slavery that's legal. This man is in a city that had 40% black people in it and 2 people black on the jury. This man has been railroaded. I've seen misdemeanor trials go longer than 2 years. This man was convicted to death row in 6 months. To say this man should be free is an outrage. I don't even want to talk about, I want to talk about reparations for Mumia. We talk about reparations for this, reparations for that, reparations for Mumia. I want to say pay Mumia for his lost time. Pay Mumia for his lost life of 41 years. Pay Mumia in money. Pay Mumia in homage. Pay Mumia in freedom. This man deserves to be free like anyone else this man had never been convicted of a crime. This man is a journalist. This man is a taxi cab driver. This man is a citizen of a city that has wrongfully done him. All we can say is free Mumia. You have the solidarity of people like myself. You have the elders of the Black Panther Party. You have longshoremen. You have all of these beautiful people out here. You have unions. You have anyone of any sense of civilization support. And this man, all of the evidence in his trial is circumstantial if you look it up. The ex-president Donald Trump exonerated 237 people. Some have war crimes on their thing. Some have all type of drugs dealers. You have gun dealers. You have all type of things. This man, all he's asking for is a fair trial, a fair shot, and he can't get that, and it's sickening. 12 years of slave, 41 years of slave. I had to pull out my black glove for this brother today. What can we do with this? Free Mumia, free Mumia, free Mumia. People like Jack Hayman leading the struggle for him. He has to be recognized. And all for political prisoners, all people that have been in prison for no reason at all. Imagine a story of a tussle with a policeman, I won't even say police officer, of like George Floyd, and you witnessed this. And the tables are turned, and the brother lives, Oscar Grant lives, Huey P. Newton lives, Mumia lives. But these people are convicted, and the police got no convictions. 2 people on the jury, 10 people do not look like him. He did not accept the judge as being a judge. He knew he was railroaded from the state, from the start, by the state. He was convicted by the federal government. Free Mumia, free Mumia. I won't keep you any longer. Free Mumia.
Thank you, David, for speaking the truth. Next up, we have Archbishop Franzo King of the St. John Coltrane African Orthodox Church.
Let me first of all, as I give thanks to God for every individual that stands here tonight that understands. You can't hear me? Can you hear me now? All right. I don't mind standing wide-legged. You know, I was thinking about something else General George Jackson said. He said, you know, they will never count me amongst the broken men. And if we have a perfect example of a man that has not been broken, no matter how diligent the enemy has been on trying to take his life, he has not been broken. And what a blessing we have, because he's an uncompromising revolutionary. He's not just an activist. He's kind of Christ-like. They didn't kill Christ for healing the sick and raising the dead or giving eyesight to the blind. They killed him for speaking truth to power. Mumia has spoke truth to power from death row. Think about that. And some of us can't even speak truth from these little boot-butt jobs that we got that we so scared we might lose. I'm about to get excited here. You know, for me, free Mumia is not a request. It's a demand. It's a prediction. And predictions and demands don't come true unless we do what we're doing tonight. And we don't just do it tonight, we do it every night and every day and every opportunity that we get. We say, free.
We've got Arvin Noelle of the Party of Communists, USA.
My name is Arvin Noelle. I represent the League of Communists, the Youth League for the Party of Communists of the United States of America. I'm the recording secretary for Northern California. And I'm here in solidarity with Mumia. I'm here in solidarity with Palestine. I'm here in solidarity with Hawaii. I'm here in solidarity with the First Nations people that are still falling victim to the yoke of the United States government. For several decades, Mumia has been under the yoke of the American injustice system. Time and time again, his freedom has been denied. Time and time again, they have struck down any effort, any movement, any action to free political prisoners here in the United States, here in South America, in Africa, all across the world, for the sake of profit, for the sake of their comfort, for the sake of their privilege. And I cannot stand for that. I cannot live in a world where that kind of injustice exists. So me, 26 years old, I commit myself to fighting for the rest of my life, until every political prisoner on this planet is free, until every working class citizen is free. And I would gladly give my life, but I would rather live a life for it. I understand what it means to pick up a rifle and step in the trench. I understand what it means to sacrifice everything that I have for the sake of my cause. Me and my party vow that we will never stop applying pressure to those in charge, to the government officials that keep him behind bars, that keep Assange behind bars, that provide weapons to the Zionist state that is murdering civilians every day. Right now, in our own comfort, there are people around the world dying from American weapons, from bullets that our citizens have built, that they have paid for. And it is all for the sake of profit. It has never been about freedom. It has never been about what we claim in our Constitution to be our God-given right. We will never stop fighting. And I thank Jack for inviting me here today to speak. And if there's anything I can do for any...
Did I get that right? And he's representing the Party for Socialism and Liberation. He's an organizer for that party. And answer.
Thank you so much, Carol, and thanks for everybody being here tonight. I'm repeating a message that I gave earlier this week in solidarity with another political prisoner, Leonard Peltier. Leonard Peltier has been in lockdown since Friday, November 18th. It's almost been 1 month, along with the whole prison population. He's 78 years old. He suffers from many serious ailments: diabetes, high blood pressure, aortic aneurysms, untreated kidney disease. This is medical neglect in the prison. And on January 25th of this year, he got COVID. And Again, when he got COVID, he didn't receive any medical treatment. Instead, he was put into isolation in Coleman Maximum Security Prison in Tampa, Florida. That's the excuse for medical care that he receives. Next year, it will be 48 years of his imprisonment, illegal imprisonment of Leonard Peltier, which is an absolute travesty. And that is the real crime that has been committed. We say to the US government, time is up. We call on President Biden, who has the power to sign a clemency order to free Leonard Peltier. The Answer Coalition stands in solidarity with him now and always. And we remind President Biden that you have the power to grant his freedom and also the power to grant Mumia Abu-Jamal his freedom.
Yes.
It's time to stand up to the FBI reprisal, to the vengeance against Leonard Peltier and the other activists that just fight for freedom. He is innocent. Everybody knows that he was railroaded into prison for an incident, the shoot down at Pine Ridge in 1975 and the alleged murder of 2 FBI officers that the FBI knows that he didn't do, the judge knows that he didn't do, the witnesses that testified against him have since said that they lied on him. 1 month ago, on November 13th, there was a rally in Washington, D.C. featuring Leonard's attorney, Judge Kevin Sharp, and the prosecutor that put Leonard away, U.S. Attorney James H. Reynolds Jr. This prosecutor said that he did the wrong thing. There's no case. Hundreds of activists, indigenous activists and other supporters came. They walked 1,100 miles seeking justice for Leonard Peltier because there is no case. It's all up to the whim of President Joe Biden. So join me to say, clemency now for Leonard Peltier. Clemency now for Leonard Peltier. Clemency now for Leonard Peltier. Thank you so much. We're fighting for him and we're fighting for all political prisoners.
Next is Jack Heyman. He's a retired member of the ILWU, the Longshore Union, and a member of the Labor Action Committee to free Mumia, and he has some important messages to tell us about.
Thank you, Carol. So we're all out here tonight to demand freedom for Mumia Abu-Jamal. We did this same thing 23 years ago when the Longshore Union shut down every port on the West Coast and led a march here in San Francisco all the way to City Hall to demand freedom for Mumia Abu-Jamal. We need to keep doing that. The Labor Action Committee to free Mumia Abu-Jamal was set up shortly after that massive march and shutdown that we had on the West Coast. And our principal belief is there is no justice in this racist capitalist system for working people and for minorities, for racial minorities. We got to mobilize out in the streets. They picked a black judge, Judge Clemens, to decide tomorrow on Mumia's fate, but she's already revealed her cards. She said that Mumia doesn't have a right to any appeal. She's following the lead of D.A. Krasner, who opposed Mumia's appeal. And that's why we say there is no justice in this racist capitalist system. So I want to read a couple statements from trade unions that are still involved for the fight for Mumia Abu-Jamal, and this is international. First, I'll start here in Vermont. This is from the Vermont AFL-CIO. The Vermont AFL-CIO declares that it's time that Mumia Abu-Jamal and all Black Panthers, political prisoners in the U.S. who were engaged in organizing through the Black Panther Party, be set free. We also declare that the time has come for organized labor without hesitation to stand with working class Black community when they demand true freedom, economic equity, and self-determination. The largest union in Britain is Unite. I'm going to read a letter from one of the top officers of Unite saying that as one of the striking Liverpool dockers in the mid-90s, I was in Oakland looking for support for our strike, and I attended a rally in support of Mumia Abu-Jamal. I was then humbled by Mumia's expression of support for our strike in Liverpool while you sat in your cell on death row. I have followed your case since then, and like millions of others, I'm absolutely appalled that a fellow human being should be treated so shamefully by the American authorities. It is with this in mind that I write to you, Mumia, offering further support from Unite, the largest union in the United Kingdom. Just want to point out that demonstrations like this aren't only taking place in San Francisco. Tomorrow there will be one in Oakland at noon at Oscar Grant Plaza. There was a demonstration earlier this morning, the first one on this weekend, coming weekend, in Japan, that demonstrated for freedom for Mumia Abu-Jamal. There are also demonstrations in Mexico, in France. This is international. We got to raise hell and free Mumia Abu-Jamal.
Our next speaker is Eleanor Levine, representing Code Pink Women for Peace, and a complete anti-war activist and activist for social justice, including freedom for Mumia.
Known as the voice of the voiceless, after 41 years, Mumia continues to be falsely imprisoned because he challenges, even from the inside of prison to this day, the deep roots of racism and brutality in the U.S. For this crime of challenging the U.S., he is considered an enemy of the state. Mumia Abu-Jamal should never have spent one day in prison, not one day. Mumia's case exposes the race and class bias of the entire capitalist judicial system. The state demands his slow death in prison as retaliation for his continued defiant resistance to state repression and racial oppression. But Mumia will never be silenced. Justice can never be silenced. Mumia will always, today, tomorrow, and always, give voice to the voiceless. We stand with Mumia. Mumia's freedom is part of our own struggle for justice and human liberation. We call on Judge Clemens to obey the law and consider all evidence against Mumia, not just the cherry-picked biased evidence, and declare Mumia entitled to a new and just trial.
Yes.
Code Pink calls for Mumia's immediate release along with the release of all political prisoners. Justice will never be silenced. In addition to calling for Mumia's freedom, we urge you to support another political prisoner, as some of you have talked about today with other prisoners. And the prisoner I'm talking about is Daniel Hale. And Daniel Hale is charged under the Espionage Act for telling the truth about the U.S. killer drone program in which the U.S. conducts extrajudicial killing. Both Mumia Abu-Jamal and Daniel Hale should be welcomed as the truth tellers they are.
Yes.
Let us call for both to be released. As you've heard from others, Mumia's case is up for consideration before Judge Clemens tomorrow. Daniel Hale's support team is working for a pardon before the end of this congressional session. To support Daniel Hale, please go to the website Daniel Hale, Stand with Daniel Hale, and you'll get information on how to support Daniel. Anyway, let me just finish by saying free Mumia and free Daniel. Thank you.
Thank you, Eleanor. Thank you, Code Pink, for your consistent support for political prisoners of all kinds. Next up is Steven Zeltzer of the United Front Committee for a Labor Party and the Pacific Media News Guild. Give it up for Steven.
You know, I was looking at MSNBC this afternoon, and they did a long story on Julian Assange. saying that the New York Times and the major media are saying he should be released. And they were saying, how come Biden isn't releasing him? How come Biden isn't releasing him? Well, obviously Biden isn't interested in getting the truth out. Because what we see today is a lies, a propaganda war against the Russians, against the Chinese. They're on the war path, this U.S. government. And that's what Mumia was breaking through. He was breaking through the media information blockade of this country. And that's what we have. They're not interested in telling the truth to the people, and that's why they put Julian Assange in jail, and that's why they put Mumia in jail. And what we have to do in the labor movement, as the ILW did, we have to march and organize unions. Now this summer, there's going to be a national convention of my union, this Communication Workers of America. Our union should be out in the streets for Mumia. We should be demanding their freedom. He was a journalist and a member of my union, CWA NABET. But the union bureaucracy in this country, they don't want the truth out either, because they support capitalism and they support imperialism. That's why they're quiet. So we have to organize in the working class and educate and unite the struggles of the auto workers, of the UC workers, the workers who are fighting every day. Their struggle is the same as the struggle for Mumia. It's for freedom, it's for democracy, and that's what Mumia is fighting for. Thank you, brothers and sisters.
Thank you, Steve. Our next speaker is Sarah Gold of the Freedom Socialist Party. Sarah?
Friends and comrades, we know the evidence against Mumia Abu-Jamal is contrived. We know he's an innocent man. We know the authorities could choose to commute the sentence of Mumia, and he could be a free man tomorrow. We also know that won't happen under the current ruling class, because innocent prisoners serve a purpose in this horrific economic system, and that's to keep the oppressed working and too terrified to protest. Mumia has spent decades fighting this system as a Black Panther, as a MOVE member, and as an investigative journalist. From behind bars and on death row, he's fought for the most oppressed, and he's fought to put away corrupt cops. That's why he remains in prison, because of his power. Even if Mumia was free, we would not live in a free and just world, because there would still be slaves and political prisoners. There would still be oppressed people struggling each day to survive. There would still be those struggling to access food, housing, education, and medical care. As a revolutionary socialist feminist party, the Freedom Socialist Party and our sister organization, Radical Women, fight for all of these and more. We fight for demands like elected civilian review boards for community control of cops, and we fight for things we know capitalism cannot provide, like reparations for slavery. We prepare for the day the working class decides it has finally had enough. We fight for the right to bodily autonomy, for free abortion on demand, for the freedom of Black and brown women and queer people imprisoned because they dared to make a choice about their own bodies. If Mumia were to be free today, still none of us would be free until all of us are free. Free Mumia Abu-Jamal. Free all political prisoners.
Thank you, Sarah. Our next speaker is Dogtown Pro from the F12 Abolition Network, and he's one of the organizers of the demonstration taking place tomorrow on the same day that the judge issues her ruling on Mumia. And he's a member of the Black and Brown Social Club.
Free Mumia! Free Mumia! I said free Mumia! Free Mumia! I'm here today as an addition, honestly, so I won't take up too much time, but what I'm here to do right now is to share with you a message of solidarity from a Black man currently on death row in California for the homicide of a police officer. A young brother named Alexander Rashad Hamilton has been sentenced to death row here in California for a case stemming from the 2005 killing of a police officer. And I'm going to share with you his message right now, if you will. Peace and power. As an 18-year-old child, I was charged with the murder of a police officer during the commission of a robbery. At 20, before I was able to legally drink, I was sentenced to death at the hands of the state. Inside of my first year on the row, smartphones took off and everyday citizens were capturing assassinations of black people by the police, firsthand and getting away with it. Yet, when we reversed the roles, I'm held accountable. Turning off the TV and tuning into me became focused on the knowledge of self. Flexing the muscles of my mentality, now I know the message must be delivered. Education minus morals, accurate history, and critical thinking equals indoctrination. It's this process that leads me to become a statistic and fall into this trap that has been set for me. Mumia's push has strengthened me to never consider giving up as an option.
There you go.
Reaching towards freedom with every breath, despite the odds, I am an author working towards bringing my first book into fruition. My spirit stands with his. Please give him his flowers while he can receive them and acknowledge where they are coming from. From behind concrete enclosures and barbed wire fence, under the threat of death, my brother continues to lead us out of mental bondage. This is a trait and a gift only the greats have. Free Mumia! Free Mumia! I said free Mumia! Free Mumia! My name is Dogtown Dro, F12, Abolition Network, Vadio Mission, Dogtown, West Oakland. I'm here also on behalf of the Black and Brown Social Club to also emphasize that Black and brown solidarity is what is essential in combating and defeating white supremacy. Yeah. Just a couple of days ago, I, as a Pan-African, as a black man in America, I was there with my comrade Aaron over here, who we were standing on the steps of City Hall in solidarity with bringing Leonard Peltier home as well. Now I see my same comrade here standing in solidarity with an African in prison. We're trying to bring Mumia home now. I said free Mumia. Free Mumia. I said free Mumia. Free Mumia. Thank you so much for your time.
Our next speaker is Michael Shane. He's from the Oakland Education Association, which is the Oakland Teachers Union, which organized the teach-in on the case of Mumia Abu-Jamal and against the death penalty in 1999, one of the most significant labor actions for Mumia Abu-Jamal. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm here representing the Oakland Education Association. We have a caucus called the Rank and File Caucus. I'm also a member of an organization called Workers' Voice. First, I want to give a big shout out to the Labor Action Committee to free Mumia. As you know, they've been fighting for Mumia's freedom for I don't even know how long, because I've only been in the Bay Area since 2009. But it's very important the work that they do, and we need to spread this work far and wide. And all the other organizations that have been instrumental in this movement to free Mumia. And also, I also, as a trade unionist, I want to address the FOP and the PBA, the Fraternal Order of Police and the Policemen's Benevolent Association, these phony-ass fraternities who pretend they're labor unions. These two institutions are part of the reason why Mumia and all the other political prisoners are still in prison. They actively campaign against their release. Fuck them. So I'm a teacher in Oakland. I've taught at a high school called Sojourner Truth since about 2014. I've been using a lesson on Mumia Abu-Jamal since about 2015. And what it is, it's an essay. And I asked the question, you know, like, do you agree with the FOP that no evidence exists that suggests that Mumia Abu-Jamal is an innocent man framed up by the state? I got about 50 or 60 essays over the years, and absolutely none of them agree with the FOP. All of them said Mumia should be freed immediately or should get a new trial. So that's, you know, where, you know, as a teacher, I can, you know, at least stand in solidarity with Mumia and spread that message to all these youth, because it's really important that we get more youth out here. And tomorrow in Oakland, there's another rally at 12 p.m. down at Oscar Grant Plaza, a little march to the federal building down there. I encourage all you to come out and support. And again, free Mumia, free Leonard, free them all.
Our second to last speaker today is Charles Rackless from the Communist Workers Group.
Free Mumia! Free all political prisoners! Comrades, brothers, and sisters, I have a letter here from my comrades in Zimbabwe. In the Revolutionary Workers Group, the section of the International Leninist Trotskyist Tendency. They endorse these actions, the actions in Oakland, and the actions in Philadelphia and across the world. They can't be here today, obviously, and they asked me to read this letter, which I won't, and I passed most of them out to you. But there are a few paragraphs I'd like to share. I'm not going to go on about the evidence. People have explained that already. What they say is African workers recognize Mumia as a class war prisoner and demand his immediate release. Today, he fights for a new trial, but the capitalist courts deny the evidence that exonerates him. We join workers internationally who call for Mumia's immediate release. We call for class-conscious unions to coordinate international labor actions against U.S. imperialism and to win freedom and expunge the charges of his conviction. In Zimbabwe, the legal system has been weaponized to persecute, harass, and jail workers, trade unionists, and activists by an authoritarian and anti-worker regime in the service of imperialism. Job Sikala is a leading member and mainstream petty bourgeois opposition organization called the Citizens Coalition for Change. He's been languishing in jail for many months now in an attempt by the regime to send a clear message to all activists and trade unionists not to stand up and fight. This is the same method that they used to keep Mumia Abu-jamal in prison. It's not just about Mumia. It's because he stood up, and it's a message to anyone who wants to stand up and fight for workers' liberation, for black liberation. We need a fight for socialist revolution to win black liberation in the United States. Thank you.
Our last speaker today is Bob Mandel. He's a activist organizer with the Labor Action Committee to Free Mumia, and he was an organizer of the Oakland Education Association teach-in for Mumia Abu-jamal and against the death penalty in 1999. But since 1999, he hasn't stopped one bit. He's been organizing for Mumia and social justice and his union ever since. Bob Mandel.
So, earlier, one of our speakers talked about Leonard and talked about the fact that Biden could give clemency. Let's remember Bill Clinton's role in this. Let's remember that the FBI, which came to Mar-a-Lago with kid gloves, picketed the White House to prevent Leonard being freed by Bill Clinton, and Bill Clinton, loyal to the end to the capitalist system, loyal from beginning to end, of course, gave in to the FBI. And let's remember, we've just lived through a period of a near coup. We're living through a period where within the ruling class, there's a debate. How soon for fascism? Police killings routinely every day in the United States. When do you move from that disguised form of fascism to an open one? And when we met on October 26th, when the last hearing happened, I said that I thought that from our generation, from Mumia's generation, from Leonard's generation, from all of the Panthers from Rochelle's generation, that the perhaps the biggest lesson we have to pass along is that it is a bipartisan capitalism. Indeed. And that Ed Rendell, who was Al Gore's national chair the year that Gore took a dive to prevent mass demonstrations in the streets in Florida. Ed Rendell was a Democrat. He and Tom Ridge, Republican, first governor, first head of Homeland Security, signed the death warrant. But let's look at the Democrats' role. First, Rendell. Then we have Krasner today. Remember that the judge in this case said in front of a court reporter, yeah, I'm going to help him fry the N-word. That is the judge who presided. Krasner, the so-called progressive DA of Philly, stands behind, yeah, I'm going to help him fry the N-word. Judge Clemens, a Democrat appointed by Governor Tom Wolf, a Democrat, stands behind, yes, I'm going to fry. Okay, that is the system we live under. I want to say one other thing about Mumia and class consciousness. Jack talked about Mumia supporting the Liverpool Dockers, and most of you probably know that when Mumia was already on death row, an ABC News crew came to interview him, except ABC was on strike. It was a scab crew, and Mumia said, no way, out of here, scabs. Now, this isn't just rhetoric. 2 days ago, I'll go back. 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, we watched the bipartisan Congress and President Biden break the railroad workers' strike. Break, okay? 2 days ago, the largest union among the rail workers diselected its president, who had supported Biden's deal. They threw him out, and they've elected someone who's ready to fight. So, as we continue from generation to generation, and there are several generations here at least, the fight for Mumia, the fight for the political prisoners of that generation, the fight for Julian Assange, the fight for Jessica Resnick, 8 years in prison for opposing the pipeline that just spilled all over the Midwest. As we keep up that fight, we have some hope when we see Amazon, when we see Starbucks, but when we see railroad workers. And I will simply say this, that in okay, those are at least EMTs, not cops, all right? The railroad workers have been the most repressed group of workers in the history of the United States. A close second, the miners, but in first place, going back to 1877, Pittsburgh, federal troops. Again and again, Harry Truman sending soldiers in to break a strike by railroad workers in 1946. Joe Biden today, it is a real ray of hope. It is the beginning of the renewal of class struggle from our side, that these railroad workers have just thrown this man out and elected someone who says it's time to fight. Free Mumia.
Brick by brick, wall by wall, free Mumia!